Hey friends, I hope you guys have had a great week. This week, we have closed out the week with almost $13,000 of profits, depending on how many of the systematic trades you are taking and how you are taking your profits. Now, the $13,000 is also only related to one contract of every trade that we take. Obviously, for those that have already built out their account because they are trading with us consistently over the last weeks and months and maybe even years, you may not be at the position where you are only trading one contract for all of the trades that we're taking. If you were even trading two contracts, and that would have used up about five to $10,000 worth of margin per day, then you would have easily scaled the returns of this week to 26,000. So I know that for a lot of people, when I say how our week returns are, the returns are actually seem quite modest in comparison to what people are getting in their own accounts. And that's because people are able after time to be able to scale up the number of the number of contracts that they are trading week over week. So, yeah, we have had a really, really great week with all of our core butterfly strategies, all of the systematics. This has been just a cleanup week for all of the systematics. So, that is really the principal return that we have had this last week. Just the markets have been really, really favorable to our setup. But besides that, we did have some other trades that were baking in the background that hit some really, really nice targets. We had an iron condor on ANET. For those that are newer to the trade speakeasy, welcome. But an iron condor is basically where you're selling both sides of the move, expecting price to kind of stay within a range. And our expectation with ANET was that even because it had a really strong drop, that we were going to take some time to hollow out a base before making the next leg up. So we were able to take some really nice profits on ANET. It also has a really nice volatility profile. So we were able to take in some really good credit for the risk that we were taking on just to kind of let that bake in the background. Um, Another trade that we took is this covered straddle on AMPX that has decayed 20%. Now, AMPX, for those that don't know, I mean, it is a $13 stock, right? So your returns on such a trade are not going to be massive. The point of a short straddle is really to be able to make extra income against shares that you are holding. And on a stock that is only $13, the fact that just in a couple of weeks you are able to, for free, pick up just over three shares of the underlying is, I think, quite extraordinary because you are not putting out any extra margin. You are not doing anything extra. You just have this sitting on top of the shares that you already own. And this is just making money against the strategy. Those who like covered calls and short puts, this is actually a strategy that I much prefer. Now, here it's showing that the returns were $40 per short straddle, but actually, those who are, managing their trades were actually able to get the cumulative return. The position was down a little bit in the first opening hour because the volatility was really high. Once that volatility calmed down, then the returns on this trade actually were much closer to $80, which then actually demonstrates that we were able to get 7 shares for free on top of the shares that we already had. And then rinse and repeat this strategy. This last week, we had a lot of really important earnings come out. We shared some really great trades. We already had positions on a lot of the underlyings that were coming out, like MongoDB, Marvell, and Snow. So, we didn't add any extra positions specifically for earnings, but we were able to take significant advantage of those moves, but we didn't close out all of those. We didn't close out all of the trades. The trade that we did signal that people should close out was for Snow, only because it seemed to get its pop before its earnings release, and that can oftentimes signal that you can then get some weakness after the news has kind of come out. So, it was like buy the rumor, sell the news. Snow really benefited from MongoDB's massive pop. But those trades in our are still open in our account. So that's why you don't see a closing order for them. But here we did signal to people that they could close their calendars. We had multiple calendars, all which are up, $550. That was actually an almost 1,200% return. $45, okay, not super significant. It is further out the money, and it does have all the way until the first quarter of next year. So some people may have decided to hold this in spite of the fact that there was likely some weakness going into Snow's post earnings. And then our more current calendar, which was up 260% or $1,000. So again, just for those who maybe are less comfortable with trades or don't really feel like they're as productive as just taking long calls and long puts. I hope this demonstrates that actually there's such a variety of potential trades in every kind of market with spreads that you can consistently make money, whether the market is consolidating, whether the market's going up, whether the market's going down, whether it's not extremely bullish and not extremely bearish, or it is extremely bullish or extremely bearish. All of those dynamics can allow you to set up different types of spreads that allow you to take in extra income against your, just extra income from the market dynamics. I think the biggest weakness of just holding shares is that during long stretches of consolidation, it's very difficult to just use short positions, like just use a short call or just use um, some kind of short position to bring in enough credit to overcome the loss, even though it may be unrealized, but the loss that you're experiencing on your stock portfolio. So really knowing how to utilize these spreads and not create massive drag on your account with hedging is exceedingly important. Another trade that we had on was on BMNR. We all know that that's had, a really strong drop. We were thinking about managing some of our trades just because it had dropped against us quite a bit. But, the gamma was all still above us. We still have, positive feeling. And of course, now we saw that in this week that we carved out that base we were looking for, and we had a really nice move up towards that 37. So our position, though still slightly red, is actually very close to coming back positive. And we have a lot of duration on the trade. So we have more than 6 months on our positions. Just to show you what's happening in option strat. So these were all of our trades for this week. And as you can see, the returns are really, really strong. You have, again, with our, with our systematic trades, you're easily seeing, $2,000 for the, or actually $3,000 for the day. Here you're making $1,000 for the day. Here you're also seeing another, close to, $2,500 a day or $2,200 for the day. But all that to say, I mean, the returns on these trades are very consistent, and that's what allows people to grow their accounts. It does take time to get comfortable with the trades. I'm not, because most people are really used to discretionary trading. They're not necessarily used to trading with extremely strict rules and then just applying the trades over and over and over again. A massive part of why our systematic trades work is because over many, 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 many years, we have seen that these trades just over time have a very consistent high win rate. Now, there are months where we will find that one of the systematic trades maybe doesn't perform as perfectly because we really like to stick to a 90% win rate. But there are months where you'll see that dip a little bit below. But then the next 2 or 3 months, you can be at 100% win rate month over month. So, you do have to be ready to kind of jump in and then stick with the trades over the long haul because it's the win rate over time that's going to make sure that you are compounding those returns. So for those, those who are learning, don't give up. It does take time to learn how to manage these trades, how to be in them, also how to like watch the P&L fluctuate as the position is blooming. Because with a lot of multi-leg option strategies, it takes a bit of time for all of the Greeks to even out against so many different legs. So for a lot of people, they want to be, when they see that they're right on the direction of the underlying, they have an expectation that they're immediately going to see that positive profitability. And with multi-leg option strategies, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. But once you kind of understand that and you understand what the P&L is going to look like, it will allow you to be patient in the trades so that you can hit these $2,000, $1,000 return per trade consistently day over day and week over week. So, we don't want to, we want people to feel encouraged that, this is a system that they can deploy where they don't have to be like sitting on pins and needles. And over time, after you've deployed this strategy over and over again, you just find that the strategy, what the strategy looks like, how you like to trade the strategy for yourself, but you will see your P&L grow, and that will give you the confidence to keep on taking the trades and working the system. All right, friends, I know a lot of you are new, and I really hope that these weekly updates, weekly roundups help you guys feel encouraged about what we're doing here. And again, I always want to encourage you guys, please ask all the questions. I know that in the Discord, it's not always super intuitive where things are. It does take time to learn. I think a key thing that people ask about the Discord, and I just want to throw this out there again, though it isn't exactly it's not exactly about the weekly roundup, but there we have two main categories that you have to see, and that's that we put all of our discretionary trades. So those are trades that are not part of our systematics. We keep them separate, and so you'll see in that section, we have daily calls, which is where you're going to find the actual call outs, the opening orders, and then the closing orders, you will find them in trade management updates. And then the rest of the sections, you might not necessarily be as interested in, or they might not be as important to you. And then market talk is just where everybody talks to each other in the group. And then the other main thing is that with the systematic trades, because not everybody's taking all of the trades, we do group them together and their chat. So you'll see that, this section goes together. And the reason is because a lot of people are trading the midday and the 130 iron fly. And then we want you to be able to ask us questions. But we do separate the call out because we want people to very easily find the opening and closing orders and where we're at in the profitability without having to dig through a lot of back and forth conversation. And then we have other multiple trades, which you can see here, and each of them have attached them a chat where you can ask any follow-up questions to the setup. And sorry, I should have done this here. So this is the call out, and then this is the chat, the call out and the chat, the systematic call out and the chat. And I know for some people that feels like a lot. Like, why do we have so many? And it's to allow people, if they're not trading all of the systematics, that they can mute the sections that they're not involved with. So maybe your account doesn't allow you to trade short puts, so you can mute that. Or maybe your account doesn't allow you for some reason to trade diagonals and calendars. You can mute that. And then you only need to keep these 4 sections open. Now, maybe you're not a chatting person and you don't want to ask any questions. You don't really care about that anyways. You might mute the chat and only have the opening and closing main sections available to you. So that's why we do split it up so that it gives you a lot of optionality to turn sections on, turn sections on, off at your own discretion. And then in all the daily callouts, you see that we hashtag the type of trade that it is. And when you click on it, it will send you back to all of the specific callouts so that you can track the trades over time. Um, I know it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but one of the main things when we were just keeping everything in like one main section, people just felt really overwhelmed that there was too much information happening in one place. And so when they wanted to quickly find things, they just couldn't because it wasn't cataloged in any way. But by doing it this way, that all the daily call outs, these are all the discretionary trades, they're all in one place. And it's a very short blurb. It gives you a little bit of information. And then if there's a chart attached to it, we tag Suzu's weekly trade ideas where you can find the charts with a little bit more information and some ideas about how you could trade it or what you could trade, unless it does have a very specific trade that I have put out for you guys. So I hope that that refresher helps you guys find your way around. But please don't suffer in silence, especially if you're new. Take the time in Market Talk to ask every question that you have. We are really, really happy to answer any questions as a group, as a community, just because there are different people find different ways of managing the Discord. They find it, they have their own way of managing. And so, my idea of how I like to do things may not be how somebody else likes to do it, and they can provide you that information in a maybe in a more helpful way than maybe how I'm expressing it. So please feel free to ask any questions you have in Market Talk. We are more than happy to help you and to point you in the right direction. All right, friends, remember that this week we do have our official Q&A on Wednesday for the systematic trades, and then we have our study group session that is member led on the Thursday. And we will have that this week, and we will also have that next week. So I hope you guys enjoy these weekly roundups. I think that they've been extremely helpful for all of us just to be on the same page and to also give you guys the courage to really jump into the systematics, because it does allow you to see week over week what the returns are and how the trades are performing. All right, friends, have a great weekend. Bye for now.